Technology in the digital age. What does the world of education look like in the year 2020? My vision for the digital age is that teachers' role is definitely going to shift. Instead of being a lecturer and standing in front of the room for hours, we're going to be seen as a supporter or a facilitator of our students. Our job is going to be enhance their reading instruction while providing more motivation and lessons that the students will relate to. I also believe that technology is going to take over reading instruction. Students need something out of the ordinary to change their views of reading as something that isn't a waste of their time. Typically now you'll see in the classroom teachers using textbooks and long novels that students don't relate to anymore. Students at such a young age are finding easier access to technological advances, and they see it as a reward and exciting, which is why it needs to be implemented even more. The support I found for this, first starting with a theory, is the constructivist classroom. This is a perfect theory for the vision of technology taking over because it allows students to collaborate on tasks. Their input is really highly valued in the classroom, and students are treated as thinkers. This is perhaps the most important because they're able to make their own knowledge, and by discovery and hands-on and using this technology in reading, they'll be able to find their own knowledge. Teachers partner with students in the classroom rather than being the authority figure. Teachers will be seen to help rather than to teach. We are there to guide. Teachers will seek students' feedback in order to better understand student learning, and that's so important because we're putting the role on the students to let us know how they're doing and what they think. Assessment of student learning is integral to the teaching process. Assessment is going to look different because it's not going to be long, thought out exams that are cumulative. It's going to be more on a daily basis and looking at how they move through the curriculum, using that technology, and how successful they are. This quote is something that I found online, and I think it speaks volumes to what we see now. The process of reading is no longer solely defined by holding a book in one's hand. Electronic text, rather than the traditional print-based text, is becoming the medium by which a large percentage of our society, with and without reading difficulties, read. In light of the profound changes to literacy taking place in the digital networked, multimodal, and multitasking world, it is critical for struggling readers to have access to technology accommodations. Students now are looking for technology. They're looking for digital readers. They're looking for resources that are different than paper. They no longer want paper. They want electronic text and something that's not traditional. There were a few research studies that I found. These two spoke loud to me because they actually showed digital readers increasing comprehension and giving the different reasons. In the first one, there were 77 fourth grade readers that were struggling. They weren't on level, and they received online storybooks. And other readers that were struggling also received print storybooks. And the online storybooks scored significantly higher, and significantly higher meaning almost 25% higher than those on print. It says that they were able to understand plot, episodes, theme, and resolution within the story that they read, those students given the storybooks. And I think that that has something to do with, like it says here, the interactivity that the electronic storybooks allowed. They were more engaged, they were more involved, and they cared more about what they were reading. In the second study I found, it was about students who were in a literacy program. Half of them received the usual school program using textbooks, worksheets, and quizzes, and then 5 ebook sessions on top of that. So they were given these ebook sessions as extra on top of the curriculum. They were asked 8 questions, 4 of which were text dependent and 4 involving inferencing skills using the test. The group that received the ebook sessions scored increasingly higher than those did not. This was a 10% increase, and again, it was those students with the ebooks. They just had something, some kind of connectivity to the reading that allowed them to do better. The scenario that I highlighted in my paper had to do with the current situation being you stand in front of the class as a teacher, you tell your students to turn to page 352 and to read until the timer goes off, and that you tell your students that you have a worksheet that you're going to complete with a partner when you're finished. As an 8-year-old, that's not an exciting scenario. That's something that's going to turn you off right away and make you not want to complete the work and not want to read. So my vision for the digital age goes something like this. You look around the room and you see desks are sectioned off into 5 different tables. At one table you see a computer. You look to the right of that and you see an iPad propped up. Your teacher announces that you and your group will be moving station to station in order to look at different resources to help figure out what exactly main idea is. You will be first moving to a computer station where you can interact with the passage and play games that follows. After the station, you'll be moving to an iPad station where you can read short passages and use the iPad to select following main ideas coming from the screen. Your group will also get to watch a short movie clip at the projector station. That is a scenario that is going to grab kids, that they are just going to eat up and they're going to get so excited about, and they're going to connect to. And the first step of learning is finding something to connect to. If you're learning something that you can't relate to, that you have no purpose for doing, you're not going to remember it. They need connection, they need encouragement, and they need engagement. And that digital age scenario is a lot more engaging than what's going on right now. The benefits of teachers moving to the role of the facilitator and technology taking over reading is definitely going to be independence. The teacher will have to provide the baseline of what students need to know for that day, and this gives students that freedom and flexibility to learn and discover in their own way. It's going to allow them to find what works best for them and to create their own learning opportunities, because what works for one doesn't always work for the other. Another benefit is also engagement and motivation. The lessons, as I've been saying, are going to be a lot more relatable, and it's going to be beneficial for them because they're going to find that middle ground where they can connect their daily life to what they're learning in the classroom. So they're going to be able to take it away. This will engage students on a higher level. They'll have more resources that they know how to use and they can connect to. And this part is very important. This isn't to say that print should dissolve completely, but technology needs to stand more in the spotlight and print needs to take a back seat for a while because they're finding it very difficult to connect to pages of a book because that's not what's used anymore. Some potential drawbacks do exist. Just as independence was a benefit, it could also be a drawback. Students will have to have a lot of self-motivation for them to navigate all that responsibility. They're going to have to put their workload on themselves. If their teacher's going to step back, they're going to have to be more responsible for their learning, and it's going to have to be a slow process. It's not going to be something that can happen overnight. Students are going to have to get used to having all that responsibility on them and knowing that their teacher's there for them, but their learning falls on them. If they can't handle that responsibility, their likelihood of success is very small. Adaptation is also going to be something considered as a drawback. Teachers now struggle with using technology in the class, even just as an assistive piece. So putting technology in the spotlight and stepping back as the teacher is going to be something that's going to be very difficult for a lot of teachers. A lot of teachers see technology as just something else they have to do and something else they have to learn, but they need to start looking at it as something that's going to benefit their students and something that needs to be put into the forefront of reading instruction. In order to help with that, school districts are going to have to offer an ample amount of trainings for their teachers. Teachers need to feel more comfortable using it, and the only way they'll be able to do that is to have someone to teach them how. Some recommendations. The first is going to be openness. Going into the field of education, that nothing's going to change, that's just setting yourself up for failure. Education changes daily, yearly. I mean, it happens quicker than most of us can keep up with. So, knowing that there are going to be changes is something that's going to be completely necessary and the only way that you're going to be successful as an educator. Patience is a huge one. It may seem frustrating throwing technology in and taking a step back and allowing your students to have more freedom and responsibility, but this is something that's going to be vital for the students' future. They need to learn to be more independent, and learning all these different softwares and programs and different practices, and that's going to take time, and learning how to implement them correctly is going to require a great deal of patience, but trusting the process is going to be extremely crucial for this transition. Training. In order to teach it, you must know it. So using instructional technology isn't going to be something that's going to happen overnight. Trainings are going to have to be attended, and you're going to have to learn the different applications. In order to do that, your district is going to have to set up trainings. And if they don't have specific trainings, you as the educator need to go out and seek them, because your students need to know that you're comfortable with what you're using to teach them. If you aren't comfortable, your students aren't going to be successful, because if you don't know, how are they supposed to know? Research. While placing accountability on educators is really important, we also need to hold researchers accountable. As an educator, I don't ever want to use anything in my classroom that hasn't been proven to be effective. So research needs to really kick it up in technology, research for educational purposes, to make sure for us teachers that we know that this is working, we know that this is beneficial, how it's used beneficially, and what different ways we need to be focusing on implementing it, because we need something to go off of that's reliable and solid. Because, like I said, most teachers will not put something in their classroom that they don't know is not effective for their students. I see this digital age being a great thing for education. I see technology, stepping into the spotlight, and teachers acting as more of a support and being there for their students and always being the guiding hand. If students ever have help, that's not to say that we can't jump in and help them, because that's our job. I just see technology as being kind of the driver for education, as we sit in the passenger seat and our students are backseaters. We are there to support them and to help build their future. And I think technology is going to be something that's going to help that more than we know.